Let me introduce the members at the head table. We have our chief guest, Mr. Duminda Hulangamuwa, and next to him is the chairman of the Ceylon. He's the chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, and next to him is the chairman of the Ceylon Motor Traders Association, Charaka Prasanga. Senior vice chairman, Mr. Virann De Zoysa, Mr. Andrew Perera, who is the vice chairman, and the CMTA secretariat, Ms. Anisha Botejo. To begin the formalities of today's AGM, I would like to hand over the microphone to our chairman, Mr. Charaka Prasanga.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I now call the 104th Annual General Meeting of the Ceylon Motor Traders to order. And I would like to invite Mr. Tharanga Gunawardena to deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the chairman and the executive committee of the Ceylon Motor Traders Association, it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 104th Annual General Meeting of the Ceylon Motor Traders Association. Firstly, I take this opportunity to warmly welcome our chief guest this evening, an eminent personality, Duminda Hulangamuwa. We would like to acknowledge the work you have carried out on behalf of the Chamber, and we are truly honored by your presence at our AGM. Next, we welcome all the distinguished officials representing the Government of Sri Lanka and the respective key ministries who are present here this evening. We believe CMTA will continue to strengthen our ties with the government and its ministries and work closely in developing a national policy and framework that will work and benefit all stakeholders in the society. I also would like to welcome the respected delegates from the foreign missions and officials representing all our stakeholder organizations for being present here today. Your engagement with the CMTA on various ongoing projects has helped impact this industry in a positive manner, and we much value our relationship. Next, I wish to welcome the officials representing our sponsors, HNB Leasing, Sri Lanka Insurance, and AkzoNobel Paints, who have come forward to support the CMTA on all our activities during the past year. We welcome all the media partners that has helped the association to continue to be the voice of the industry, and we look forward to your assistance to CMTA during all our events throughout the year. We welcome the founders, chairmen, managing directors, and CEOs of respective automotive brands who represent the manufacturers that are part of the CMTA membership. Your guidance and direction provided as industry leaders is always been valued. A special welcome to the past chairmen of CMTA who are present here today, my fellow Exco members, and the management committee of the CMTA who have been the backbone of this 104-year-old association. Finally, I welcome all the other invitees and the members of the CMTA who are present this evening. We invite all of you to witness the commitment and the efforts invested by the CMTA that has been carried out in the past year, and hope you will continue to engage with us and strengthen these wonderful relationships built over many years. Once again, we welcome all of you and may you all have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you very much.
Next in the agenda is the confirmation of the notice of the meeting. Can I have the confirmation from the CMTA Secretariat that the AGM circular was sent out giving due notice? Thank you, Anisha. Next item in the agenda is to confirm the minutes of the 103rd Annual General Meeting held on 23rd June 2023. All members would have received the minutes of the last General Meeting, which is also included in the annual report, which is circulated to the members. May I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Taranga. The Chair would like to declare that the minutes of the AGM is duly confirmed. The next item in the agenda is to adopt the annual report and the audited accounts of the Association for the year ended 31st March 2024. I trust that all the members have read the annual report and the audited accounts for the year. May I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Thank you. Thanks, sir. Thanks, Lakma. May I now have the approval of the House, please? Thank you. With that, the Chair declares that the annual report and the audited accounts of the year from 1st April 2023 to 31st March 2024 duly adopted. Next item in the agenda is the recognition of the past chairman of the association. Today we have a few past chairmen of this prestigious association, and I would like to recognize them by reading out their names, the company they represented, and the year they led the association. Mr. Yashendra Amarasinghe from Kamath Private Limited, 2020 to 2022. Mr. Sharan Fernando, SML Frontier, 2018 to 2020. Riza Rauf from Senok Automobiles, 2016 to 2018. Gihan Pilapitiya from United Motors, 2014 to 2016. Deshamane Tilak Gunasekara from Satsu Motors, 2010 to 2014. Zina Rashid from United Motors, 2009 to 10. Mr. Senaka Amarasinghe from Kamath, 2007 to 2009. Mr. Suren Abhigunasekara from Toyota, 2005 to 2006 and 1994 to 1998. And Mr. Deshbandhu Tilak De Zoysa from Associated Motorways, 1989 to 1994. On behalf of the CMTA, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for your contribution to the progress of this association. Thank you.
Next is the Chairman's address. Apologies for the technical issue, but I hope you would have got an idea of the activities of CMTA over the last 2 years, partly visually. Good evening. Chief guest, Chairman of the Ceylon Chamber, Mr. Duminda Hulangamuwa. Respected invitees of diplomatic missions, ministries, government agencies, and the private sector, officials of sponsor companies, media organizations, CMTA past chairpersons, leaders of the motor industry, and my dear colleagues of CMTA. The vehicle import suspension and the hardships faced by the motor companies continued for the 4th consecutive year. The strengthening of the rupee and the relative economic stability provided an improved environment for the after-sales business. But for the most, the volumes were far from pre-COVID levels. The prolonged gap in the vehicle service intervals was a clear statement of the reduced disposable income of our consumers. This resulted in a higher demand for non-genuine and inferior quality spare parts in the market. The heavy migration of trained staff was another complication for us, as the expertise could not be substituted that easily. This was the condition of the industry last year, and the executive committee was very vigilant on industry issues and took necessary action to mitigate risks to all stakeholders. The association actively engaged with the government in withdrawing the decisions to import 10-year-old commercial vehicles. CMTA worked closely with the Ministries of Transport and Industries and the IDB regarding the development of the EV regulations and upgrading the automobile assembly policy. During these discussions, the association was mindful about the investments made by our members on assembly projects. CMTA had discussions with the Consumer Affairs Authority on preventing the sale of non-genuine and inferior quality spare parts in the market. Further, CMTA highlighted the concerns of the newly imposed VAT on used vehicle sales, which was actually negatively impacting the government revenue as well as the motor industry. The association has been strongly lobbying to regulate the vehicle importers prior to the opening of the market. We also have proposed for vehicles to be subjected to an additional 140% duty, import duty, which could be reduced by 20% every quarter. This will discourage overstocking of vehicles for future sales, which will also mitigate the forex outflow. During the last 2 years, CMTA was appointed to several ministerial and cabinet-appointed committees to work on regulations and industry development. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the officials from the Ministries of Transport, Industries, Finance, Trade and Tourism, and the officials from the RMV, Consumer Affairs Authority, PUCSL, IDB, SLSI and BOI for involving CMTA in their decision-making processes. Ladies and gentlemen, no other country in the world has set their targets for 100% EVs earlier than 2035. The CMTA, backed by global manufacturers, presented facts at several forums as to why Sri Lanka should not shift immediately to 100% EVs, and we will continue to lobby to prevent another costly mistake for the country. In terms of relationships, the association continued to strengthen the ties with diplomatic missions. The deputy head of mission of the Japanese embassy, Mr. Katsuki Kotaro, and the former EU ambassador, His Excellency Denis Shaibi, were the keynote speakers at the last 2 stakeholder events. The program on INR trading, supported by the former First Secretary of the Indian High Commission, Ms. Irina Thakur, was a very informative one. Many CMTA members are now enjoying a lower duty for imports of spare parts from India. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an honor for the CMTA as an association to be invited by the Indian government for an event which was inaugurated by their Prime Minister. Becoming a founding member of the South Asian Automobile Forum was also another accolade for our association. As of now, Indian automobile manufacturers import a substantial amount of components from other countries. During our meetings with the senior government officials in India, the SIAM director was requested to evaluate the possibility of importing such spare parts from Sri Lanka. CMTA and SIAM will continue this dialogue, as it would entice global manufacturers, component manufacturers, to invest in Sri Lanka in order to export to India. The association fostered fellowships within the industry, with initiatives such as the cricket tournaments and quiz competitions, while the CMTA Slim Automotive Sales Certificate course will support future capacity building for the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, CMTA is one of the oldest associations affiliated to the Ceylon Chamber, and we work very closely with the Chamber on matters of importance. I wish to thank our chief guest, Mr. Duminda Hulangamuwa, for accepting my invitation amidst a very busy week for him, with the Chamber AGM only being held yesterday. I would like to also appreciate the role played by the Chamber and the Chamber Chairman in providing expertise to the government on economic activities, which actually benefited a lot of companies as well as associations such as ours. My dear members, I am pleased to report that the governance and finances of the association was well managed, with a net income of 1.2 million rupees being reported for the year. I wish to thank our corporate partners, Sri Lanka Insurance, HMB Leasing and Exco Paints, as we would not have achieved much without their support. I also would like to thank our friends from the media organizations for the publicity given to CMTA over the years. My sincere appreciation goes to the senior management of member companies for being actively engaged with CMTA over the past 2 years. A special thanks to Lakmal De Silva, Tharanga Gunawardena, Rajiv Aloysius, Teranga Karim and Gayani Kodikara, and all other members of the management and executive committee. I could not have asked for a better team to work with than you all. My deep appreciation goes to our past chairman, Yashendra Amarasinghe, Gihan Pilapitiya, Riza Rauf and Tilak Gunasekara, and industry veteran Bree Ponnambalam, A special thanks to Yasendra for moderating all our events and for voicing all our video activities as well. My warm appreciation also goes out to my own Managing Director, Dr. Charaka Prasanga Perera, for encouraging me over the last 2 years. A big thank you to Anisha Boteju, Rohan Kasichetti and Andrew Perera for being involved with every CMT activity. Finally, my sincere appreciation to Virann De Zoysa, my sounding board of 2 years, for being a tower of strength to me over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, with every step we have taken, we have firmly proven our genuine intentions to work for the sustainable development of the motor industry, impartial to any company or any brand, with equal considerations to the economy, environment and the consumer. As chairman, I have done my very best over the last 2 years to guide the association to face the impending challenges and to sustain the CMTA as the voice of the industry. I wish CMTA all the very best. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, next in the agenda is the election of the chairman of CMTA for 2024-2025. I have served in the post of chairman for the stipulated 2-year period, and it is customary that the senior vice chairman is elected as chairman of the association. Therefore, from the chair, I propose the name of Mr. Virann De Zoysa, Director, Associated Motorways Limited, for the post of chairman for CMTA for the year 2024-2025. Can I have the consent of the House, please? Thank you. Let me give a brief introduction of Virann, although most of you know him, but I would like to give a brief introduction of him. Virann has had over 20 years of experience in automotive, with brands such as Suzuki, Nissan, Renault, Datsun, and has managed to hold market leadership with Suzuki for over 15 years in Sri Lanka. In addition to heading the passenger vehicle operations at AMW, Virann also functions as a director manufacturing at the AMW Tyre manufacturing facility, which caters to the local and exports markets. He is currently the secretary of the Sri Lanka Association for Manufacturers and Exporters, where the members contribute to a $1 billion export revenue. Virann has been a judge at Slim National Sales Awards for several years and spearheaded the CMTA Slim License to Sell program. He has a BSc with a double major in finance and in accounting from Clarion University, USA, and an MBA from the Edith Cowan University, Australia. So now I'd like to congratulate Virann and hand over the proceedings to him.
Thank you, Charaka. Next item on the agenda is the chairman's speech. Good evening to you all. Firstly, I would like to sincerely appreciate the nomination by Charaka and the trust placed in me by the members. It's truly an honor. Mr. Hulangamuwa, diplomatic missions, senior government officials, media, past chairmen, valued members, MDs, CEOs, and of course our sponsors who make it all happen. We are honored to have you all with us today. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to work closely with all of you in the coming years, carrying forward the amazing initiatives that Charaka has spearheaded, which we saw on the video a short while ago. Charaka has been an inspiring leader to us at CMTA over the past 2 years, effectively engaging membership and our key stakeholders with many memorable events. Once again, on behalf of CMTA, thank you. The automotive industry has been something that I've grown up with. On a lighter note, starting to drive and ride motorcycles at the age of 11 was just the beginning. I do hope there is no one from police here today. The passion for all things automotive naturally led me towards the sector and AMW in 2004. Over the past 20 years, AMW has given me the opportunity to understand the industry from two-wheeler right up to the commercial segment. I've also had the privilege of being associated with CMTA since 2012 and learned a great deal from the committees and past chairmen who are present here today. Thank you. Moving ahead, we must focus on the responsibility of the association and further our efforts to support and work with our stakeholders. Today, as the automotive import sector, we find ourselves in the most challenging of circumstances. With imports restricted for over 4 years, we must ask ourselves, how did we get here? What could we have done differently to safeguard the sustainability of this sector? As mentioned, our sector was a primary contributor to government income, contributing almost 7% of total government revenue. We maximized revenue per dollar of import, averaging almost $1.60 for every dollar that left the country. However, inconsistent policy changes noted in the recent past impacted this contribution negatively, changing the sector's attractiveness to the government and possibly leading to the subsequent import restriction. This is indeed a misstep and something that must be addressed by working together with our stakeholders. I believe supporting government in sustainable policy and regulation is a key focus for CMTA moving forward. In line with this, I am pleased to share that CMTA has reached out to the Society of Indian Automotive Manufacturers, SIAM, who represent global manufacturers based in India. This group represents manufacturers of the third largest market in the world, only behind China and USA. The team from SIAM have committed to visit Sri Lanka in August this year to support and share knowledge on sustainable policy and the way forward for the sector. As an association, we must actively and effectively lobby for sustainable policy and lobby against disruptive policy that can endanger our industry again. We hope that our intentions are clear and once again implore all of you to support the Ceylon Motor Traders Association as you have done in the past to transform this sector. Thank you once again for your valuable time with us today. On the agenda is the election of office bearers 2024 to 2025. I wish to nominate Mr. Andrew Perera from Kia Motors Lanka Limited as the Senior Vice Chairman, Mr. Lakmal De Silva from David Pierce Motor Company Limited as Vice Chairman. Can I have the approval of the House, please? Thank you. May I invite Lakmal to take a seat at the head table? The Chair would like to declare that Mr. Andrew Perera and Mr. Lakmal De Silva have been duly elected as the Senior Vice Chairman and Vice Chairman respectively. Next on the agenda is the election of committee members. From the Chair, I propose the following members to serve as the Executive Committee: Access Automobiles Private Limited, Carmart Private Limited, Diesel and Motor Engineering PLC, Drive One PS Private Limited, IWS Holdings, McLaren's Lubricants, Senok Trading Combined, the Autodrome PLC, Toyota Lanka Private Limited, TVS Lanka Private Limited, United Motors Lanka PLC. Mr. Charaka Perera, representing Stafford Motor Company Private Limited, will be the immediate past chair. Can I have the approval of the House, please? Thank you. The Chair would like to declare that the above members have been duly elected as the Executive Committee for the year 2024-25. The next agenda item is to elect the auditors of the Association. Chair proposes that KPMG be re-elected as auditors for the year 2024-25. May I propose the approval of the House, please? Thank you. The Chair hereby declares KPMG duly re-elected as the auditors of the Association for the year 2024-25. Our next agenda item is the introduction of the Chief Guest, and I would like to invite Mr. Andrew Perera to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. It is a distinct honor to introduce our Chief Guest today at the 104th Annual General Meeting of the Ceylon Motor Traders Association, Mr. Duminda Hulangamuwa. Mr. Hulangamuwa is the country managing partner for Ernst & Young, Sri Lanka and Maldives. In this role, he is responsible for overseeing the overall practice of EY in the region, ensuring excellence by working with entrepreneurs, companies and our country to solve most of the pressing challenges whilst helping their clients to capitalize on new opportunities and to assess and manage risk to deliver responsible growth. Before his current position, Mr. Hulangamuwa was Head of Tax Services for EY Sri Lanka and Maldives, a role he held with distinction. He became a partner in 1991 and was appointed head of tax in 2012, demonstrating his expertise and leadership in the field. Mr. Hulangamuwa was a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Sri Lanka and the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. He also holds a law degree from the University of London, showcasing his diverse academic background. In addition to his professional achievements, Mr. Hulangamuwa is also the current chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, where he continues to make significant contributions to the business community. We are privileged to have him today as our chief guest, and we look forward to his valuable insights and contributions. Please join me in warmly welcoming Mr. Duminda Hulangamuwa.
The chairman of the Ceylon Motor Traders Association, members of the head table, Mr. Kotaro from the Embassy of Japan, DG of the BOI, past chairman Ceylon Chamber, Mr. Charaka Prasanga Perera, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor and a privilege as the chairman of the Ceylon Chamber to address this August Assembly on the occasion of your 104th annual general meeting. We had an annual general meeting yesterday, as mentioned by the past chair. It was the 185th annual general meeting. So today I attended a couple of AGMs of public listed companies in Sri Lanka as a part of my professional duty, and none of them have reached 104 or 185. So this goes to show how old the association yours is and how deeply involved we are with the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce over the years. We indeed value this relationship as a very proud part of the Ceylon Chamber. When I accepted the invitation and looking at the people who are present here, I have been talking in the last few years, at last 1 year at least, about the economic crisis and the collapse and how we overcame that. The Kotaro-san has been witnessed most of those discussions, and show hope of recovery and hope of promise in the future. But addressing this assembly, I am not all that confident of the current situation that you all are facing. But having listened to the presentation of the chairman, you all have been quite robust in terms of your activity as an association, in spite of the fact that your business has been almost down to zero. So, I think all of you know the reasons why we had to come and face the situation. In the case of your industry, it is a forex issue. In the case of the entire financial crisis, it had two-pronged reasons. One, a fiscal, other forex. The fiscal issue was largely to do with the revenue that we were getting was far below the expenditure that the country had to incur. That part has been partially addressed, and there are signs of recovery on the fiscal side, although it is still a relatively long way ahead. To give you in summary, Sanjay, my economic analyst, was launching also here. We have an expenditure of government salaries, central government and provincial government, of about 1.5 trillion estimated for this year. Our expenditure on social welfare, public health, education is around another 1.5 trillion. So close to 3 trillion is expenditure that we have to incur on public servants and other expenses. Our estimated income is, at best, is about 4 trillion. So we have a gap, a surplus of about 1 trillion expenditure minus income. But of course, that is before taking into account the interest costs, both domestic and on the foreign debt, is around 2.5 trillion. So we end up with a 1.5 trillion deficit. And then we get the capital expenditure on top of that, which is about another trillion. So we'll have a budget deficit of about 2.2 trillion. So this is where the problem is. And how did we finance these deficits in the past? Was we went to the banks, we went to the markets and borrowed and printed money. Those are the two ways in which we managed to finance the deficit. Public expenditure, a lot of people are saying has to be brought down, but that is something that you cannot do overnight. The public expenditure, government servant salaries, you can't put them on the road on day one. The cut down expenditure will have to take place over a period of time. I am just appointed to Public Sector Salary Review Commission by the President, and we are first meeting the unions yesterday. It was a nightmare, to be frankly. We met the non-academic staff of state universities the day before. There are 22,000 employees or 22,000 non-academic staff in the entire university system. Just to give you a comparison, the NSBM University in Hulangamuwa, which has about 15,000 students, have 90 non-academic staff. The Ceylon University, which has 15,000 students, have 2,200 non-academic staff. That's the comparison. So, we listen to them, to their demands, how they benchmark their salaries and perks in line with the lecturers. That is what they benchmark against. And we ask the question, why do you want to benchmark the salaries against lecturers? But they didn't have anything to answer. So that is where the state sector is. The overcrowding over the years by successive governments. So that cannot be addressed overnight. It will take some time. So public sector expenditure, in my view, non-discretionary. So is welfare expenditure. Interest is also not discretionary. So government has very little space, fiscal space, to cut down expenditure other than increasing revenue. On interest, they get some kind of relief on the foreign debt. I don't know what the terms and conditions are. Kotaro-san is saying he might know better on the bilateral side and on the private debt that governments will negotiate and finalize. So that's where we are with regard to fiscal situation. It's definitely promising from where we were. We are, I think, taken the correct decisions, very difficult decisions to increase taxation to 36%, VAT to 18%, introduce tax on motor vehicles. They are difficult decisions, but necessary decisions in my view. Otherwise, we'll never have a path of recovery. Our access to markets is difficult now because of the new Central Bank Act. We cannot borrow. There's a limit to which we can borrow and limit to which we can print. So previously, all governments were very lavish in terms of government expenditure, so long as they have access to borrowing and printing, which we cannot do. But even if you give permission to access printing and borrowing, and your taxes are low, the inflation is going to be high, and interest rates are going to be over 20% or close to 20%. So eventually, as businesses, you pay a higher price on interest and inflation as opposed to lower taxes. So options are having lower taxes and high interest inflation, or relatively high taxes and low interest and inflation. So it's the same, the balance is off. But your problem in the industry is not in relation to the less in terms of fiscal crisis, it's more the forex issues. The motor vehicle industry was the first prohibition that came in. But that again, was a reason at that time. We had exports of about $12 billion of goods. We had tourism and worker remittances of about another $6 or $7 billion, and other service income of about another $2-3 billion. So and imports $22 billion. We managed to just bridge it closely, and whatever difference we had, we used to borrow from international market and settle. So when we lost the tourism income and the income from foreign remittances, that took away about $7-8 billion away, and we had to impose controls on imports, and motor vehicle was one of the first casualties of that. The others have all been resurrected, have been restored, but motor vehicle is still in the ban list of imports. I see papers, they are giving, various ministers are giving various statements with regard to relaxation, but I don't know how far that is correct. But with regard to with the bilateral debt restructuring and possible debt restructuring of the private debt of about $10 billion altogether, and then the private debt of about $12 billion, which might work out to about $22 billion, there will be space on the forex side, is my view. The government's commitment to repay debts will be deferred at least by 10 years for the capital, and interest might start kicking on 28. But still they'll have space to pay off those loans. And possibly with bilateral funding start to coming again to commence projects like this stall airport project, expressway project, etc., I feel that more dollars will come into the system. And then with increased confidence placed in international markets, Sri Lanka's ranking hopefully will be increased, and because of which the reserve position will improve from $5.5 billion today further, in my view. And Ceylon Chamber has prepared a document to be shared with all the political parties to be included in the manifesto, which will be out most likely next week or week after, in which we are giving a target to the next government to have a reserve of $15.5 billion in 2030. So if the reserves increase and there is promise of money coming in, the stability of the exchange rate, I'm sure the government will, whichever government is in power, will relax the motor vehicle industry. But having said that, I must say the motor vehicle industry also will have to rethink the way it did business, in my view. I mean, there are industry stalwarts, I will have lecture to them, but from a policy perspective, there had to be rethinking. I doubt very much that any government in the future will have a neoliberal policy of giving permits in the same way they gave in the past to import vehicles on concessionary duty basis. So there had to be rethink of that policy. I don't think the numbers will be that high. Secondly is the exchange rate. And I must say that the exchange rate was a subsidized rate. And we all benefited from the exchange rate. At 180 rupees a dollar, we all consumed the reserves that we had. And most of it went for vehicle imports. I'm being very frank. Of course, you're not to be blamed because you're a businessman. You all are, and there's opportunity to make it. There's nothing illegal about it. But the government policy at that time was wrong. They had no foresight of what was going to happen. So everyone consumed at 108 rupees a dollar, which is also a benefit, a subsidy that all of us enjoyed. From expensive vehicles to inexpensive vehicles, everyone enjoyed the benefit of having 2-3 cars at concession rates, and we consumed all the dollars that we had. It may not happen now because the dollar is now a floating rate, it's not subsidized anymore. Central bank does not intervene to allow it to go up but to prevent it from falling. In order to make sure the exporters also get a fair deal, the central bank intervenes now only to make sure the dollar doesn't fall below 70%. Earlier it was intervention to make sure it doesn't go up. So, because of that reason, I think the forex market will be a little tight in terms of the rate, but otherwise funds will be available. And the pent-up demand is their concern, the government's concern. But we have explained to them and said that you can rationalize and control it. And still they can open up the vehicle industry market. Another area that of concern to the vehicle industry market is the way it operated. The practices it had, not so much with regard to the brand new manufactured vehicles, but with regard to the grey market. There's absolute abuse of the system in the grey market that led to under-invoicing, remitting money in unauthorized ways, not paying the correct duty, was an enormous problem for successive governments. I have sat with secretaries of Treasury in private meetings where this was discussed extensively, and they just couldn't resist the situation. So I think as industry, it's up to you all to make sure that even when the government relaxes import of vehicles. There's absolute discipline in the motor vehicle industry. Even as of today, where the government has issued permits to import vehicles on to people who work overseas, is an absolute racket. I mean, I can tell you that. Kusumati, who works in Dubai, can't import a 7 Series electric BMW for 140 million rupees. It's daylight robbery. I mean, I had long discussion with Harsha on this, and he brought it up in Parliament. He wanted information, evidence from me, which I didn't have, but I know it's happening. So, so if you drive down Talatugada Road, you see one showroom which has about any given time 10 electric Mercedes-Benz vehicles. So these are practices that are happening even in spite of the tight controls the government has. So this is the biggest concern the government has. So reputation is not good with regard to the import and how it happens. So I think you need to rethink if they relax the import of motor vehicles, how the issue is going to be addressed. Successive governments tried best to stop this. They failed miserably. The chamber tried to get involved, but we just couldn't stop this. So this is one area that the government is very concerned, and even if it is imposed, you will have to come up with the rules and regulations as to how this can be handled. The other area is that the whole transport strategy, the government is rethinking of trying to see, are we going to permit the import of vehicles, private motor vehicles, the same way and numbers we allowed earlier, or are we going to improve our public transport system? How do we reduce the number of vehicles that a person owns and try to rely more on public transport? So that thought is also going through government. In the long, this is of course a medium to long-term plan. The light rail project comes through. It's a very ambitious project. It might take some time, but those are the ways in which the transport strategy, I think, in a successive government, I have had discussions with the NPP. They're very, very keen and concerned about how we can improve public transport and good public transport and replace it with private transport. They don't want to talk much about it because they'll be accused of saying there are a reduced number of vehicles for private ownership, but they are thinking on those lines. The present government is thinking on those lines. So I think the whole transport strategy will change. That's what I'm trying to say. Even if the government permits the import of motor vehicles, in my view, it will not be the same level, not the same way in which it happened in the past. The regulation will be tighter. The outlook of any government on policy on public transport will be much robust. Private transport will be discouraged. Even if motor vehicles are imported, there will be high duties imposed on them. So those are some other concerns that it will not be a situation where you could import 1,000 vehicles on a permit like you did earlier. So that will also be an issue that you need to think about. But of course, controls and losses also have brought opportunity. I mean, I see so many companies in the motor industry who were 100% motor vehicle now have diversified into other areas of business very successfully. Some have gone to exports, some have gone to agriculture, some have gone to other industries. So that also has benefited or raised the diversification strategies of companies and are looking elsewhere and outside, which is also a good opportunity that arose as a result of a bad situation. So overall, Ceylon Chamber is always there to help you. We'll support you in whatever submissions you make. And my personal view is that the industry will be opened out next year on a staggered basis. But you will also have to make sure that the people who are in the business will act honorably, respect the rules and regulations, so that the government will not be compelled to impose any more bans and discouraging the import of motor vehicles. So that will be the discussions I've had with the government as well as opposition parties. The views are similar, the sentiments are similar. It will not be a blank check. But there will be always people who play the system. So that is something that we need to consider and think about. So, but I think the situation of the country is improving. We have recorded a 5% growth rate in the first quarter. I believe we might end up with about 3% overall by the end of this year. The forex situation, which was about $20 million. I remember when the day that we declared that we are unable to pay the foreign debt, that was the day that Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe took over office as the governor and secretary of the treasury. And there was a television discussion that they had, the first television discussion with all television channels at the Sri Lanka Standard Institution. And I was invited as the private secretary representative. Three of us participated in the discussion. And I went to the Sri Lanka Standard Institution. There was a very no power cut. So I couldn't hardly find the pouring rain. I had to park my vehicle somewhere, and got difficulty. I went to the institution, to the Standard Institution. It was all in darkness. They were struggling to connect the wires using lamps and candlelight. Then at 10 o'clock, power was restored only for this particular program. And that day, the governor told me, Duminda, we have $20 billion in the account. And today, we have $5.5 billion, which is a remarkable achievement by any standard. Of course, we had to do a lot of substantial reform for that. We had increased taxes, both income tax and VAT. We introduced market rates for energy and electricity. It's a very difficult decision, but I must really congratulate the minister for doing that. Inviting 3 more players to supply petroleum, breaking up the CEB under the new CEB Act into 3 institutions, revising and bringing market rates on electricity. So they all were costly and very difficult reforms, but we done them. And that is the reason why we've been able to achieve results so fast. To get growth and build reserves, bring inflation down to single digit, bring interest rates down to 1% or less than 10%. It's a remarkable achievement in 2 years' time from where we were. I remember Devika, I saw here at the back. We were at the Indian High Commissioner's house, both Vish, Hi Devika, myself and Krishan, when the riots, mobs were inside attacking the Prime Minister's house. We went to ask him for help to see how we can help. That is where we were at that time. It was so bad. The Ceylon Chamber took an active role at that time. We begged the JVP not to put people on the streets. I must say, in the respect of that, they did it. After the Aragali, they didn't put people on the streets. We begged the opposition not to go and put people on the streets, not to strike, because if they do that, there is no country for them to take over if they are going to take over one day. We engaged the trade unions, the GMOA. We had to do a lot of meetings convincing them to accept the tax reduction, tax increases. We met the other trade unions. It was very difficult discussions we had. I must say, all of them accepted the role we played in order to make sure that we have come to some level of stability today, both politically and economically. So my sincere hope and wish is that this reform process is sustained and we support it. Any deviation from what we are doing now will take us into a greater pitfall. So any person proposing an alternative must say what the alternative is. And we cannot at the moment see an alternative other than the path that we are walking on. So the biggest risk to the reform process, to this sustained recovery that we are going through, is a political risk. That is what IMF has said. So political parties, if they keep changing track, which I think they cannot do in my view, because we are bound by the agreements, then we will fall into bigger mess than what we were in 2021-22. So that's why we have prepared this document, a manifesto of all political parties, to bring unanimity in their thinking on policy and to get their acceptance as to which way the country should march and go forward. So with those few words, I wish you all success. I know you all are the most affected industry as a result of this crisis. Every other industry is showing signs of recovery, signs of growth, and signs of hope, except you and I really sympathize with you for that. I also love my cars, but besides that, we all have to go through this. So I sincerely hope that the government will relax the controls of import of motor vehicles and permit your industry to flourish and foster as it was before. With those few words, thank you very much for inviting me this evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ceylon Moderators Association, it's my great pleasure to propose the vote of thanks to conclude our 104th AGM. Firstly, let me express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to Mr. Duminda Hulangamuwa for gracing this event as our chief guest. Mr. Hulangamuwa, your insightful and thought-provoking words have been invaluable, and we look forward to strengthening our collaboration with the Chamber in the future. Mr. Katusaki of the Japanese Embassy and all the officials representing the key ministries, governments, institutions, thank you for joining us today. We hope to continue working closely with you to build the national framework, the policy of the automotive industry. I would like to acknowledge and thank the invitees from the private sector organizations for this presence. Your engagement with the CMT on various ongoing projects is vital for positively impacting our industry. A special thank to you, our sponsors, Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, HNB Leasing, and Actonobel Paints. Your support during these challenging times has been crucial in making this event possible. Without your generous sponsorship, organizing this event would have been an uphill task. We are grateful to our media partners, both presented here today and those who have been supported the CMTA throughout the years. The founders, chairpersons, managing directors, and CEOs of the respective CMTA member companies, thank you for being here today and for your guidance and directions as industry leaders. To all the past chairpersons, to the CMTA of your contributions, and as well as the Exco members and the management committee, thank you for your commitment and hard work behind the scenes. Finally, I extend our gratitude to the Cinnamon brand and its staff to accommodating all our requests to make this event a success. I wish you all a pleasant evening and thank you once again for your presence.
After the conclusion of the meeting, I would like to invite our chief guest, the past chairman and the executive committee, to remain at the stage for a photograph, and I would also cordially invite the invitees and members to proceed to the cocktail area. Dear fellow members and guests, I now formally declare the termination of the 104th Annual General Meeting of the Ceylon Motor Traders Association. Thank you.